Hello everybody, welcome back to another Cybernetic strategy development log. I'm super excited to show you guys one of the premier origins of the game, the Eradicators. But before we get into it, I wanted to do a special thanks to Mortdog. If you don't know who Mortdog is, he was the lead design director on Teamfight Tactics for the last 6 years. Today he announced that he is no longer going to be working at Riot Games. He's been at Riot Games for the last decade, and kind of wanted to dedicate, I'm only here in my life, in my career, because of him and the inspiration he's had on me. And this game would have never existed without him, and I'm eternally grateful for everything he's done for me in my personal life and in my game design career. So, yeah, showing some stuff on the screen. I wanted to kind of dedicate the work of this game to Mortdog and, really appreciate everything. Anyways, getting right into it, the Eradicators. What do the Eradicators do? They summon a hydraulic press at the side of the board, and whenever enemy units get below a certain health threshold, Eradicators send that hydraulic press to fly towards and crush them. As well as Eradicators themselves gain attack speed scaling with their health, so the lower health they get, the more attack speed they get. With the different breakpoints in the trait, they gain more attack speed, as well as the execute threshold increases. So I'm going to show you guys the all of the units and what they do. So the first one cost of the Eradicator trait is Needlebot. Funny, Needlebot was actually the very first unit ever designed for this game, so this is a little bit of sentimental value. A very simple one cost and attack caster. What Needlebot does is they shoot a few needles at the enemy, and each needle does some damage. Very simple. But the little cool thing is every 10 needles that they shoot, they'll gain an additional needle shot. So after 3 or 4 casts, they'll stack more and more and more needles, and that stacking just goes infinite. So you'll see on the tooltip here, it'll tell you like how many needles you need to get to the next bonus and all that stuff. And then what's cool is like the more needles you shoot, the more you can stack, the faster you can stack, and it kind of snowballs and rampages, and it gets really cool and fun to watch. Let me show that. So just for fun here, I set it to 50 needles to show you, because I like to talk about those fantasies that every character has. And, for Needlebot in this case, you get all those needles stacking up, and then all of a sudden, like, your little one cost just shoots, like, a bunch of, like, it gets crazy. I think, and it is a pretty fun fantasy to have for a stacking one cost. But, that's Needlebot. Moving on to Overturn, the one-cost tank of the Eradicator trait. Overturn is super simple, but their fun little gimmick is their ability. They'll heal some health, and then they'll pick up the enemy and throw them behind Overturn, and then that enemy that gets thrown will actually take increased damage for the rest of combat. So, super simple, little silly, and, and then the damage increase that they take will scale with Overturn's armor and magic resist. And, them being the Unbreakable trait, which they get a lot of armor and magic resist, you can really, like, there's some, like, cool little, like, small tank fantasy where you can really, like, pick up the enemy tank, and then all of a sudden they take, like, 50% more damage, and you can really blow them up. And, pretty simple, pretty cool stuff. Yeah, that's Overturn. Moving on to the 2 costs, we have Burnbite. Burnbite is actually a pretty unique magic marksman, where their ability is they just shoot a cone of fire at the enemy, and then adjacent enemies will take more damage. But what's unique about Burnbite is that the time of the duration of the ability, the fire, it scales with attack speed. So you don't really want a lot of mana generation. You'd prefer a lot of attack speed, obviously, since that's what the Eradicator trait gives. And, the fantasy with this is you give them a lot of attack speed, a stacking attack speed item, and you can really get a super long just fire going like a wildfire. And you can see here it's kind of just going ham, and we're just burning the entire enemy team, and it gets pretty fun. Nothing too crazy to say about Burnbite, but, if you get a ton of attack speed, maybe get 10-second, 20-second long fire, you can get some crazy DPS going, and you know, set your enemies ablaze. And I think it's pretty cool. And you know, nothing much else to say, but you know, that's Burn Bite. So this is Fireline. Fireline was actually one of the original units that was shown off a few months ago, back before the whole like big quality pass. They're pretty much the same. They have that cool little, they'll shoot a laser beam, Gatling gun laser beam at the target, and then the longer that beam is on them, the more damage will be dealt. So that increases just like infinitely. So if you have any of those super tanks, Fireline is the one to you know, take them down. And if you're curious, the passive is that every 10% bonus attack speed is converted to more AD, obviously, so you want more attack damage on your attack damage carry. So it gets pretty cool, because if you put like a mechanical minigun, which is like the easiest demonstration item that I'll use for most of this stuff, you can really get a lot of stacking attack damage. You see it's going up there. Very simple, and you know, that's the way all the Eradicator units should interact with attack speed in some way. Fireline, pretty simple 3 cost, really cool fantasies. If you have an enemy has a super tank and you want to take them down, use Fireline. The 3 cost tank for Eradicator is World Guard. World Guard is actually a fun, unique tank, I think, because you know, normally tanks don't scale that well with attack speed. But World Guard actually wants attack speed because their ability is to just spin. They spin, each spin heals themselves, and they deal some damage. And the more attack speed they have, the more spins they get. So, you know, it gets pretty fun because, you know, once again, you get that stacking attack speed, you can get a lot of healing, and hell, even a lot of damage in some cases. Obviously, the damage is fairly low because it's a tank, but, you know, it's a pretty fun tank to watch, especially in combat. You'll see your tank just spinning around, going crazy. It can get pretty silly, but you know, just pretty standard tank. You know, spin around, look all pretty, and deal some damage. And you know, I'm a big fan of like these transformative yet super simple 3 costs, because you know, what does he do? He spins. Yeah. There's like I've been saying, there's nothing too much to him. World Guard is a pretty silly dude. And they just spin around. They spin a lot. Cool. Now, getting into 4 cost, we'll have Sightline. You know, Sightline is the premier attack marksman of this game. You know, they want a lot of attack speed, they'll attack really fast. And basically what they do is they'll summon a laser portal that shoots some lasers at the enemy, and then for 3 seconds, they'll also transform their attacks into this cool flurry. And then the more attack speed that you have, or that Sightline has, the more arrows are shot within that duration, as well as more casts of the ability, summon more portals at reduced effectiveness. So obviously the damage will be lowered, but then Sightline will get a lot stronger. You see the flurries going out, all these fancy, cool looking arrows going out. It can get pretty cool. You know, I mean, I lost the combat, but you know, pretty simple 4 cost, but you know, very, very high high ceilings, because you know, you get a lot of attack speed going. You can see some crazy stuff happening, you know, with those flurries, and that's how Sightline interacts with attack speed, of course. But obviously, that being more simple due to being a what's it called, just an attack marksman. It's nothing too crazy, but also pretty cool for, you know, that bow character. And then getting into the other 4 costs of the Eradicator trait, we have Kill Switch. Kill Switch is the melee carry of the Eradicator trait, and they're pretty cool, pretty simple 4 costs. And what they do is every new target, they'll do a little kickflip and then lower the enemy's magic resist on attack. And their active is that they'll jump to a target, deal some damage, and heal, as well as gain some attack speed for a few seconds. So basically, the fantasy with this is you jump around, lower the enemy's magic resist, slowly whittle them down while healing yourself, and you know, sustaining yourself. You're not gonna take every single target down immediately, but then, you know, maybe over time, you know, be a good support unit, and then maybe just be a little annoying, and that's really the goal with Kill Switch. And I think he does a good job, you know, healing up, you know, kicking them, and then like slowly over time, you really you know, not really an assassin, but a really good fighter. yeah, that's kill switch. Once again, fairly simple, nothing too crazy. And onto Grave March, the 5-cost Eradicator. This is a cool one. I don't think I've shown him before. But Grave March has a special trait called World's Strongest that when you place them in the front row, this front row, he'll become a tank and have a different ability. But if you place him in the back row, or any of these back rows, he'll become a fighter with a different ability. So I'm gonna show off the tank thing first. But what's cool is his passive. Regardless of what form he's in, when he dies, I'll show it in a second. But when he dies, he'll find the lowest enemy within 3 hex radius, and he'll pick them up and he'll jump out of the arena, and they'll both die. And I think it's hilarious. So then, the tank ability is you kind of like pull a bunch of enemies in front of you together, and then you line them up and you do a big punch as well as healing, and then you gain a shield. And I think it just looks really, I mean, with the VFX, it looks really cool, I'll say. Obviously the damage isn't super crazy, but you know, shield, heal, and some CC. What could you not ask for from a tank? I think it's a really fun. Yeah, there you go. You saw, obviously it's not super polished, but you saw the passive there. You kind of just took him out with him. And then for the fighter, let me show you the fighter. Let me reset the thing here. Let me 2-star him. So the fighter, this is not a particular reference to anything. Wink, wink. But basically, the fighter, so this is like the actual carry. So same passive, but Grave March will stop time for 2 seconds. So all allies and enemies are stunned during this duration, and then he'll teleport around the arena, like during this time, and he'll spawn knives everywhere, and then he'll unfreeze time, and then all the knives get going, and he'll start doing a barrage of punches towards enemies. And you see, just like that, it can get a little crazy. And you know, it's not it's a very on the nose reference. I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yeah, that's Grave March. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Wait, I want to show you the cool VFX and the like little animation that shows up when you put the trait in. I think I like it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the first origin, technically. First origin, premiere origin of the Cybernetic strategy. It's meant to be pretty easy to play, pretty simple, but ultimately it follows this kind of code of paint design philosophy that I really like, where it's something really simple, but you make it essentially, you make it really fun to watch, and in this case, make executions look fun by crushing them under a hydraulic press. I think it's done a pretty good job, and I'm very happy with it. And with that being said, if you made it to the end, thank you so much. If you have any suggestions, maybe in ways I could present better, or improve the quality of these videos, because I'm getting used to it, but it's still it's a little hard to kind of make effectively. Yeah, let me know though. And thank you so much for watching, and take care.